I, 22-year-old female, was always a really chill person. I've always gotten along with everyone, and I really appreciate my mental peace. I hate unnecessary drama. I've been dating Zach for 3 years. He's always had his best friend, Mia, who was studying in another country. They always talked via text or video call. That never interested me at all because I also have male friends. Mia was always disinterested when Zach was by my side on his video calls, and I wasn't interested in her either, to be honest, but Zach wanted us to be friends, so I tried. Mia listens to the same music as me. So once 3 years ago, I texted her on WhatsApp to try to have a friendly conversation, but she saw the message and never answered me and blocked my number. I thought, what a rude witch. But I let it go and never talked about it to Zach, so I wouldn't make trouble. I just think that maybe she doesn't want to make friends, and I respect that. Not long ago, she returned to the country, now to stay and live here again. Zach asked me if she could stay in our apartment, and I said no. I don't feel comfortable with people staying there. Apparently, Zach told her that I was the one who refused to let her be with us because Mia has been doing everything to criticize me since that day. She has criticized my work, my studies, my hair, my clothes, etc. Zach always says that's how Mia is, and I should be her friend because she's really funny, haha. Many times she tried to make me jealous with comments like, "You know that I used to take baths with Zach when we were little kids?" And she would get upset when I just said, "All right," at those random comments because TF, why should I be jealous of that? She sits on Zach's lap. He doesn't say anything to her about that, even if he knows I don't like it. He cuddles with her every time they have the chance. They whisper to each other and go out together sometimes. And I obviously can't help but think that at any moment I will come back to the apartment and she will be wearing one of his shirts. And I don't want to deal with that, TBH. The worst thing is that Zach really seems to like seeing me jealous. When I tell him something is bothering me, he laughs saying, "Oh, you're jelly," and stuff like that without taking me seriously. It's pretty annoying to know that he likes me to feel that way. And Mia has been really irritable lately, like if she's competing with me. It feels like they're trying to make a novella with me. She always tries to make me jealous with stupid things, like when she said she knows Zach's favorite sushi, and I don't. To which I replied, "Then buy sushi for everyone because I don't care at all." I've told Zach on several occasions that his friend is an idiot, and he just says Mia is like that, and I should just ignore her comments. But honestly, I don't have the energy to deal with that girl and not beat her up at the end of the month. So I told Zach I'm going to move out, and it's better to give ourselves some time. I haven't moved yet, so he's been coming to my room to tell me that I'm letting my insecurity speak for me, and he doesn't feel anything for Mia. I told him I'm not insecure. I just want to protect my mental peace and avoid drama. He got angry, saying I should fight for him and not be so apathetic. He said that if I love him, I would be fighting for him. But I have always had the philosophy that if someone wants to cheat on you, they will do it even if you say no. I don't know if I'm being too cold about this, but I'm not the kind of person who enjoys drama. I was always the cold type of person. I hate it. And I know Zach and Mia are enjoying this love triangle. I really care about Zach, and we had a great relationship, but I care much more about my mental health. Am I the idiot? Edit, I haven't moved out yet because we pay rent together. The whole month of the rent is already paid by me because he couldn't come up with the money to pay for this month. But he's supposed to pay for the next month, guys. I don't have any problem with this. He didn't take advantage of me or anything. Something happened, and he ran out of money for rent. Nothing about this. Plus, I have to wait for my parents to fix my room again. So for now, I have to leave my things here. At the beginning of the year, the lease was updated, so I spent a lot of money on that, as well as rent went up by 40%. So it's money wasted now. I'm pretty sad about that since my father was the one who helped me pay for my part of the expenses of that apartment. No sé si lo expliqué bien en inglés, pero ya queramos contrato del alquiler y las expensas están pagas. Así que perdí plata en eso y ya pago por este mes también. El no lego con la plata para el alquiler de este mes, así que pagué yo. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Tell him that when two people actually love each other, there is no need to fight for the other person's love. There isn't a reason why you have to deal with another woman sitting on his lap and flirting with you. She isn't respecting you, and he isn't respecting your relationship. Dump his butt and move on. You will find an amazing person to be with. Comment 2. Here's the thing. If someone is in a relationship and they don't like it, it causes them pain, it stresses them out, they are miserable all the time, then leave the relationship and find a better one. If he is playing games with you, tormenting you because he thinks it is funny, then show him the door. You deserve better. Now for the update. Thanks for checking in. Things have been wild since Mia moved back. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Zach lost his job last month. He said it was downsizing, but I heard him arguing on the phone about missing work. He's been home more, which means more time with Mia. They're like two peas in a pod, always together, laughing, cooking. It's like I'm the third wheel in my own relationship. I've been picking up extra shifts at work to cover our expenses. My boss, Mr. Thompson, noticed I was stressed and offered me a promotion. More responsibility, but better pay. I took it, thinking it would help with the rent, and maybe get Zach to see I'm serious about our future. But here's the thing, Zach hasn't been looking for a new job. He says he's exploring his options, but all I see is him playing video games or hanging out with Mia. I've been so busy with my new role that I barely have time to argue about it. Then last week, I came home early. I found Mia wearing Zach's college sweatshirt. The one he told me was special to him. They were laughing on the couch, a half-eaten pizza between them. I lost it. I asked her to leave, but Zach defended her, saying I was overreacting. We had a huge fight, and I ended up staying at a friend's place for a few nights to cool off. When I came back, Zach had a surprise. He'd used the money he'd saved to buy a ring. He proposed right there in the living room with Mia grinning behind him. I was shocked. Part of me wanted to say yes, to fix everything with a simple word. But I couldn't. Not with everything that's been happening. I told Zach I needed time to think. He got upset, saying I was pushing him away when he was trying to make things right. Mia just watched, that smug look on her face. I felt like I was in a bad soap opera. I talked to my parents about it. They've always been supportive, but they're worried about me. They think Zach isn't good for my mental health. And honestly, I'm starting to agree. I love Zach, but this situation with Mia is too much. Yesterday, I made a decision. I told Zach I couldn't marry him, not like this. He begged me to reconsider, but I stood my ground. I said I'd move out as soon as I could. He accused me of abandoning him when he needed me most. But I'm not abandoning him. I'm choosing myself. Mia finally showed her true colors. She told Zach he was better off without me, that she'd always been there for him. It was like she'd been waiting for this moment. Zach looked torn, but I could see he was considering it. That hurt more than anything. I've been packing my things slowly, trying to find a new place. It's not easy with the rent increase and the money I lost on the lease, but I'm determined to get out and start fresh. I've learned that sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones we need to make for ourselves. Thanks for reading. My wife ditches me and takes the kids over old photos with an ex, so I teamed up with the ex's wife and made sure she regretted her snap judgment. I, 42-year-old male, spent the summers of the early 2000s and my early 20s going to all the concerts I possibly could. The pop-punk rock scene was at its peak when I was at the perfect age for it. I would spend every penny I made at my shitty jobs on live music or traveling to see live music. I'm sure no one familiar with the scene at that time would be shocked to hear that I was hooking up with a lot of people I met. 99.9% of said hookups were all with women. But the culture of nonconformity made experimentation feel easier and less daunting than it did in the real world. Kissing guys in crowds was a favorite pastime of mine for a while, until I met someone who we'll call Max. He and I immediately connected, and we spent the next 2 weeks or so attached at the hip. It's not something I could even accurately define as a relationship, hence the quotation marks in the title. It was just a very intense 2 weeks of us getting to know each other, going on road trips, and sort of falling in love while experiencing something we both loved. He told me he thought we were better as friends and wasn't sure he was really into dudes. It was the most profound hurt I had ever felt in my life, and it really shocked me. I had been in relationships before, real ones that included commitment and lasted for months, and I hadn't taken those breakups nearly so hard. He and I remained friends after I took some time to myself, but I never had another relationship with a man after that. It felt like that level of hurt was my warning sign to stay away. Now I'm old, married, and most of my music enjoyment these days comes in the form of me sitting at home, listening with a glass of wine as opposed to sweltering, crowded venues or summer festival spaces. I have 2 amazing children, and most of my time and brainpower is spent focused on how I can be the best dad to them and how to raise good humans in the scary world we live in right now. Max and I are still friends. He lives nearby with a lovely family of his own, and we see each other fairly often. His kids are friends with mine, our wives are friends. Recently, while going through some old stuff, I found old photos of Max and I in our eyeliner wearing heydays that had been tucked away. When his family came over, I pulled them out to show everyone. We had all had a bit to drink, and Max said something along the lines of, "It's us in our bisexual phase." I could tell my wife's demeanor changed, and once we were alone later that night, I was all but interrogated over it. I told her it was a brief 2-week fling, that I don't really identify as bisexual these days or when I met her, and that it didn't seem worth mentioning. She said I broke her trust by hiding this, and that she needs time to think about things. This all happened on Friday night, and things are still incredibly tense between us. I'd like some advice or reassurance or something. It wasn't something I was actively hiding, it just never came up. Am I the idiot? Edit. I answered one of the burning questions. Here. I'll see y'all if I have any updates I care to share, and you guys still care to care. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You fell in love with someone, had a strong intimacy relationship, broke up, met your wife and got married, and had kids. You introduced your ex to your wife and never told her that he was your ex-lover. You allowed him to become close to your family. You knew she would have wanted to know, but you deliberately kept it from her. That's called a lie of omission. And you kept that lie for years. Now she has to find out like this. She must feel humiliated and embarrassed, as if everyone else already knew. I'm guessing his wife knew since he said it in front of her. Very interesting that he told his wife and you didn't. Still holding a torch much? She has every right to be upset, and you're the jerk. Comment 2. You're the jerk. I would be pretty pissed to learn that my longtime partner's best friend was actually their first and strongest love, regardless of their gender. It's not about you being bisexual, but about you being bisexual for your best friend who is still in your life, and both of you acknowledge it. Let me ask you this. If Max came to you tomorrow and said he always loved you and asked you to run away, what would you do? If you even have to think about it, you know the answer. The way you talk about Max compared to your wife says it all. I think, at the very least, you should reduce contact with Max while you and your wife work through your emotions. Now for the update, thanks for sticking around. So where do I even start? After that whole interrogation with my wife, things went from tense to downright icy. She started sleeping in the guest room, and every conversation felt like walking through a minefield. I thought maybe giving her space would help, but it just seemed to make things worse. Then, out of nowhere, Max's wife calls me. She's in tears, saying Max confessed to having feelings for me all these years. I couldn't believe it. Here I was trying to patch things up at home, and now this bombshell? Max's wife was devastated, and I felt like the world's biggest jerk without even doing anything. I confronted Max about it. He admitted it was true, said he was tired of hiding and that he had to be honest with his wife. I was furious. Not because he had feelings for me, but because he chose to drop this on me now, when my own marriage was hanging by a thread. Things got even messier. My wife heard about Max's confession, and that was it. She packed up the kids and went to her sister's, said she needed time to think without me clouding her judgment. I was left alone, feeling like I was getting walked all over, and I couldn't even muster the strength to stand up for myself. A week went by with no word from her. I was a mess, trying to figure out how to fix things, when the doorbell rang. It was Max, looking like he'd been through a war. His wife had kicked him out, and he had nowhere to go. I should have turned him away, but I didn't. I let him crash on my couch, and that's when the rumors started. Neighbors saw him coming and going, and the small-town gossip mill went into overdrive. I was now the guy who broke up 2 families, even though I hadn't done a thing. My wife wouldn't even take my calls, and I was stuck with the one person who was at the center of all my problems. But then, something unexpected happened. Max's wife reached out to me. She wanted to meet just the 2 of us. I was wary, but I agreed. We sat down at a local coffee shop and she apologized, said she realized that none of this was my fault and that she had been projecting her anger onto me. She even offered to talk to my wife to explain things. It was like a weight had been lifted. Not long after that, my wife came back home. We had a long, hard talk about everything. She admitted that she overreacted and that she should have trusted me more. We decided to start fresh, to work on our communication and trust. Max moved out the next day. He said he needed to sort out his own life and that he was sorry for all the trouble he caused. I haven't seen him since, and I'm not sure I want to. So that's the update. It's been interesting to say the least, but things are finally starting to settle down. Thanks for reading. My husband's friend flirts with him and humiliates me, so I confront her and make sure she regrets crossing the line with a married man. Tom and I have been together for 8 years, married for 2 months. He is handsome, funny, quirky, and a wonderful conversationalist, just perfect for me, really. We go dancing, jogging, visit galleries, and cook together. He is so sensual and loving. It's astounding, and there's never a dull moment with him. I'm fond of his mom, and he has welcomed my folks as his own family too. We rarely argue most of the time, except on one topic. Tom had a close friend who, on multiple occasions, he's described as his best friend. Let's call her Julia. Originally, Tom tried to ask her out years ago before he met me, but she turned him down. They bonded over work. They had back and forth that seemed impenetrable, as whenever I tried to join in, Julia would give me these droll, blank stares. She was somewhat flirtatious with Tom, stroking his bicep when he flexed it, suggesting they should work out together. She also made somewhat insensitive comments that have really upset me. Whenever I tried to bring this up, Tom hand-waved it as banter, that I was overthinking, insisting that it was in good faith, but I was never so sure. I tried to chat with Julia one day when Tom left the room, and she just muttered, "I hate small talk," and started scrolling on her phone. Another time I was talking to her, she just muttered, throughout the entire conversation in a very bored tone and demonstratively yawned. The final straw was when she escalated her behavior from immature jabs to a prank that was primarily done to humiliate me. It didn't physically hurt, but it was emotionally devastating in a way that caused so much hassle that me and Tom had to go to marriage counseling for it. He also more or less stopped talking to Julia because of it. At first, he was really defensive and kept claiming Julia's behavior is primarily just edginess, that I'm misconstruing as having more sinister intentions. But the marriage counselor has pointed out that his repeated invalidation has weighed on our marriage, and its impact will take a while to be lifted, and that the primary way to heave that weight will be to trust my impressions if I believe that something is up. After a particularly heated counseling session, he was agreeing with a lot of the talking points our counselor was making, but he was still insistent that Julia had no feelings for him. I said that given her past behavior, it's very likely she holds some sort of torch for him, regardless of whether she admits it or not. He told me that I was reading too much into it, and I was absolutely livid. It was as though he learned nothing from our sessions. To put it across to him more aggressively, I waved over a stranger in fitness gear, complimenting his muscles. I asked him where he worked out, and when he answered, I told him we could meet up and work out together one day with a wink. When he left, Tom was enraged and demanding that I explain myself. But I told him that the explanation was right there in my behavior. He was furious, understandably so, but it was the only way he could understand the severity of my pain, to experience it himself. He then shouted that what I did was specifically done to flirt, whereas Julia was likely not intending that at all. I called nonsense, stating that it's the exact same thing, regardless of intention. If I'm perfectly honest, it frustrates me that even at this point, he's still defending her months down the line. Am I being the jerk here? Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1, not the idiot. But you will be TA if you stay and keep letting this man turn you into someone who resorts to games and flirting with other men to get your point across. You should not have to beg your husband for understanding, nor should you have to sink to his level to help him understand your pain. He knows it hurts you and he doesn't care. You should have left your husband years ago. He is having an emotional affair. The fact that Julia plays into it is appalling, but you can only control your relationship with him. The longer you stay, the more it affirms to him that you will tolerate him letting his relationship with another woman destroy your marriage. Comment 2, not the idiot. What is wrong with these girl best friends antagonizing the girlfriend and the guy remains oblivious and defending behaviors like this? Are men really this dense? And even if they are indeed so emotionally immature they cannot recognize it, how is it okay to dismiss and not recognize their supposed person telling them about their hurting and just doing nothing about it until shoot hits the fan? Why? I'm curious what the prank was that broke the camel's back for you. Only because I cannot fathom after all this disrespect she showed you what else could she do that was even more awful. Good luck, friend. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around. So, here's what went down this week. Tom's birthday was coming up, and I thought it'd be a great chance to patch things up, you know? I planned a surprise party, invited all our friends, his family, and yeah, I even thought about inviting Julia. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not after everything. The party was a hit, everyone was having a blast, and Tom was over the moon. But then the doorbell rang, and guess who it was? Julia. She had heard about the party from a mutual friend and decided to show up with the most extravagant gift, a watch Tom had been eyeing for months. The room went silent as she handed it to him, and I could feel my blood boiling. Tom was confused but tried to play it cool, thanking her awkwardly. I pulled him aside, asking what the hell she was doing here. He swore he didn't invite her, but the damage was done. The rest of the night, I watched them like a hawk. Saw her laughing too loud at his jokes, touching his arm. It was like a replay of all my insecurities. The next day, I confronted Tom about it. He said he couldn't control who showed up and that he didn't want the watch. But he didn't return it either. We argued, and I stormed out, needing some air and space to think. While I was out, I bumped into our mutual friend, the one who'd told Julia about the party. She was apologetic, said she didn't think it'd be a big deal. But then she let slip that Julia had been asking about Tom a lot lately, wondering if we were really happy together. That stung. It was clear Julia was still in the picture, whether Tom admitted it or not. I went home, and Tom and I had it out. I told him everything, how Julia was still sniffing around, undermining our marriage. He finally broke down, admitted he'd been naive. He said he'd cut ties with Julia for good this time, that our marriage meant more to him than any friendship. But the next day, I got a message from Julia. She wanted to meet, clear the air. I agreed, thinking maybe we could finally put this to rest. We met at a coffee shop, and she was all tears and apologies, saying she never meant to come between us. But then she said something that made my heart stop. She confessed she'd always loved Tom, that she regretted turning him down all those years ago. I was furious, felt like a fool for ever trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. I told her to stay away from us, that she had no place in our lives. She left, and I sat there shaking with anger and betrayal. When I told Tom, he was silent for a long time. Then he thanked me, said he was sorry for not seeing it sooner, that he'd been holding on to a past that didn't exist anymore. He promised to focus on us, on our future, and that's where we're at. It's been a rough week, but maybe, just maybe, we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!